She had a golden rule: never ever fall for a client. But when Noah Carter walked through her office door with that piercing gaze and a smile that could disarm any defense, Lily Collins felt something dangerous awaken inside her. He hired her to find the perfect woman. What neither of them expected was that fate already had other plans, plans that would involve forbidden touches, confessions whispered in the dark, and a passion so intense it would shatter every professional boundary she had built. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and become a member to get early access to upcoming stories. And if you felt it was really worth listening to, also click the Super Thanks button. Your gesture makes all the difference and helps us continue bringing stories that move you. Lily Collins' office was on the 23rd floor of a glass and steel building in the heart of Manhattan, where the smell of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the soft lavender scent she sprayed every morning. The walls were decorated with minimalist paintings in shades of grey and gold, and natural light poured generously through the panoramic windows, revealing the frantic dance of the city below. It was an environment she had meticulously built, every detail designed to convey sophistication, confidence, and above all, control. Lily didn't believe in love at first sight. In fact, she barely believed in love at all. At 32, she had witnessed so many marriages crumble, so many broken promises, that she'd developed a pragmatic philosophy. Love was a chemical illusion, and compatibility was science. That's why she created SoulMatch, a revolutionary software that analyzed over 300 points of emotional, psychological, and behavioral compatibility. Her clients paid fortunes for her to find the right person, and she delivered results with almost surgical precision. But Noah Carter would be different. She just didn't know it yet. When her assistant announced his arrival that rainy Tuesday in October, Lily straightened her navy blazer, ran her fingers through the brown hair that fell loose over her shoulders, and took a deep breath. She had read his file 3 times. Noah Carter, 36 years old, CEO of a sustainable tech company, fortune valued in the hundreds of millions, discreet philanthropist, no serious relationships in the past 5 years. On paper, he seemed like the type of client she saw every week, successful, too busy to look for love on his own, willing to let science do the work. But when Noah walked into the office, the air changed. He was tall, with broad shoulders that filled his charcoal grey tailored suit in a way that seemed both casual and impeccable. His dark brown hair was slightly tousled, as if he'd run his fingers through it moments before. But it was his eyes that disarmed her, grey-green intense with a gleam of intelligence, and something else she couldn't immediately decipher. Maybe it was vulnerability. Maybe it was challenge. He stopped a few steps from her desk, hands in his pockets, and tilted his head slightly. "Miss Collins," he said, and his voice was deep, velvety, with a touch of warmth that made something vibrate inside her chest. "Thank you for seeing me." Lily stood up, extending her hand with the professional smile she had perfected over the years. "Please," she responded, feeling his palm meet hers, "call me Lily." The handshake was firm, but his fingers lingered. Just 2, maybe 3 seconds longer than social protocol required, enough for her to feel the warmth of his skin, the slightly rough texture of hands that didn't spend all day behind a desk, enough for her heart to beat a little faster. She pulled her hand back with calculated grace and indicated the leather chair across from her desk. "Please sit down. Can I offer you something? Coffee, water, tea?" "I'm fine, thank you," he said, sitting with natural elegance, crossing one leg over the other. "I've heard a lot about you, Lily. They say you're the best at what you do." She smiled, returning to her chair. "I don't like to make promises I can't keep, but I'm very good at finding patterns where others see chaos. Love," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "isn't as random as people think. It's chemistry, timing, shared values, complementary needs. My software analyzes all of that." Noah leaned slightly forward, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her forget for a moment that there was a desk between them. "And you believe that's all love is? Data points and algorithms?" There was something in the way he asked, not with judgment but with genuine curiosity, that made her hesitate. Lily was used to defending her philosophy, but something about his presence challenged her in a different way. "I believe," she began, measuring each word, "that people confuse infatuation with compatibility. Chemistry is easy. Building a life together is hard. My job is to increase the odds of the second." He nodded slowly, but a small, almost amused smile touched the corners of his mouth. "And what if the chemistry is so strong it rewrites all the data?" Her heart skipped. She blinked, quickly recomposing herself. "Then we adjust the variables." Her voice came out firmer than she felt. "But that's rare. Very rare. Rare." He repeated the word as if savoring it. "Not impossible." Lily opened her laptop, forcing herself to focus. "Let's start with the basics, Mr. Carter. What exactly are you looking for in a partner?" "Noah," he corrected gently. "Just Noah." She raised her eyes, meeting his again. There was something in the way he looked at her, as if he were reading between the lines of every gesture, every word. "All right, Noah." She typed his name into the system. "Tell me what you want." He was silent for a moment, his eyes scanning the room before returning to her. "I want someone who sees me. Not the money, not the titles, just me." His voice dropped, almost to a whisper. "Someone I can be vulnerable with. Someone who challenges me. Who makes me want to be better." Lily felt something tighten in her chest. She knew those words. She'd heard them before from dozens of clients, but from his mouth they sounded different. "True. And physically?" she asked, keeping her tone neutral, professional. Noah smiled, and this time there was something mischievous in that smile. "I'll know when I see her." The silence that followed was charged. Lily looked away first, typing notes she didn't really need to take. She just needed something to do with her hands, something to interrupt the electric current that seemed to connect them. "I'll need you to fill out a questionnaire," she said. "It's comprehensive. Should take about an hour. Then we'll run the compatibility scans and start identifying candidates." "How long does the process usually take?" "Depends. Some clients find a match in weeks. Others take months." She finally looked at him again. "I don't rush. Quality over speed." Noah stood up, and she did the same. He extended his hand once more. "I look forward to working with you, Lily." She took his hand, and again that touch lingered. Their eyes met, and for one impossible moment, the world outside, the cars, the horns, the rain beating against the windows, disappeared. "Likewise," she murmured. When he left, the office seemed smaller, emptier. Lily returned to her chair, her fingers still tingling where he had touched them. She looked at the computer screen, at his name blinking in the system, Noah Carter. And then, for the first time in years, Lily Collins wondered if maybe, just maybe, she didn't know as much about love as she thought. The antique market in Brooklyn was a labyrinth of forgotten memories and lost treasures. Weathered wooden stalls stretched for entire blocks, each filled with objects that seemed to whisper stories from the past. Bronze candelabras with the patina of time, mirrors with hand-carved frames, books with worn leather covers that gave off that unmistakable smell of old paper and sweet dust. The Saturday morning air was crisp, with a touch of autumn that carried the aroma of caramelized apples from a nearby street vendor, mingling with the scent of espresso coming from a small cart on the corner. Lily arrived 15 minutes early, wearing ripped jeans, a white linen blouse that danced lightly in the breeze, and comfortable sneakers. Her hair was pulled into a relaxed bun, with a few rebellious strands escaping around her face. She held a lukewarm latte between her hands, watching the bustle of the market while she waited. The observation meeting idea was her favorite strategy. Put the client in casual, authentic environments, away from corporate polish, and observe how he behaved, how he treated strangers, how he reacted to the unexpected, what kinds of things caught his attention. It was in these details that Lily found the most valuable clues, the small gestures that revealed character, preferences, values. But when she saw Noah turning the corner, something inside her shifted. He wore dark jeans and a brown leather jacket over a simple white t-shirt. There was nothing particularly extraordinary about the look, and yet he seemed to have walked out of a men's cologne ad campaign. Maybe it was the way he walked, confident steps but unhurried, hands in his pockets, a half smile on his face as he observed the movement around him. Maybe it was the golden morning light hitting the perfect angle of his jawline. When his eyes found her, the smile widened. "You're early," he said as he approached, and there was something warm in that accusation. "I like to be prepared," Lily replied, trying to sound casual while her heart insisted on beating off rhythm. "Ready to be analyzed?" Noah laughed, a low, genuine sound that caught her by surprise. "I'll try not to disappoint you." They started walking between the stalls. Lily observed it was her job after all, but she found herself watching in a different way, not just as a professional but as a woman. The way Noah stopped to really look at things, picking up objects carefully, turning them in his hands as if each one told a story. The way he talked to the vendors, asking genuine questions about the origin of the pieces, smiling when they got excited about the stories. At a stall filled with quirky sculptures, abstract figures of twisted metal, imaginary animals carved in stone, busts of unknown people, Noah stopped. He picked up a small bronze sculpture of a bird with spread wings, so detailed you could see every feather. "This is beautiful," he murmured, more to himself than to her. Lily approached from behind, silently, watching the way his fingers traced the outline of the wings. She could feel the warmth emanating from him, the subtle scent of cologne, something woody with a touch of spice. She was so close she could see the almost imperceptible movement of his breathing. Then, without turning, Noah spoke. "You always look at me like you're trying to solve me." Lily froze. Her heart raced. He turned slowly, and suddenly they were inches apart. So close she could see the small golden flecks in his green eyes, the shadow of stubble that lightly darkened his jaw. "Maybe I am," she whispered, and her voice came out huskier than she intended. His eyes dropped to her lips just for a second before returning. "And?" he asked quietly. "Am I solvable?" The world around them, the vendors' voices, the laughter of children running, the clinking of metal objects swaying in the wind, everything seemed to fade into the background. There was only the minimal space between them, the air charged with something unspoken, something dangerous. Lily tried to breathe, but the air felt thick. "I'm still working on it," she managed to say. A slow, almost feline smile curved his lips. Noah raised his hand, and for a moment she thought he was going to touch her face, but instead he took a strand of hair that had escaped from her bun and gently tucked it behind her ear. His fingers brushed lightly against her skin, and that simple touch sent a shiver down her spine. "Take your time," he said, his voice low, intimate. "I'm not going anywhere." Lily swallowed hard. Every professional instinct screamed at her to step back, re-establish the boundary, but her feet wouldn't move. Her body seemed to have a will of its own. It was Noah who stepped away first, turning back to the bird sculpture as if nothing had happened, as if he hadn't just made the ground disappear from under her feet. "I think I'll take this one," he told the vendor, pulling out his wallet. While Noah paid, Lily took the moment to regain her balance. She breathed deeply, adjusted her blouse, took a sip of the now cold coffee. "Professionalism," she reminded herself. "He's a client. Just a client." But when Noah returned, holding the small paper bag with the sculpture, and smiled at her with those eyes that seemed to see straight through all her defenses, Lily knew she was lying to herself. They kept walking. Noah bought an antique poetry book for his secretary. She loves Neruda, bargained with humor for a vintage chess set. "My dad taught me to play when I was 6, and stopped to give a few dollars to a street musician playing violin." "You're very present," Lily commented as they walked. "A lot of my clients are always on their phones, even during our meetings." Noah shrugged. "What's the point of being somewhere if you're not really there?" He looked at her. "Besides, I'm enjoying the company." She felt the heat rise up her neck. "I'm supposed to be observing you, you know, profiling. Not—" She hesitated. "Not being charmed." He stopped walking, turned completely to her, and there was something serious now in his expression. "And if I told you I'm not trying to charm you, that this is just me?" Lily held her breath. There was truth in those eyes. Truth and something more. Something that scared her because she recognized it. Desire. Not the superficial kind, but the dangerous kind that comes with wanting to know, wanting to stay, wanting to risk. Noah, she began, but didn't know how to finish the sentence. He took a step toward her, just one. But it was enough for her to feel his gravity pulling her in. "Tell me you don't feel this," he said softly, "and I'll stop. I'll be just another client. I'll follow all the rules." The brutal honesty of those words completely disarmed her. Lily could lie, should lie. But something in her, something that had been dormant for so long, refused. She swallowed hard. "This is complicated." "I know," he replied, and there was relief in his voice, as if her admission were a gift. "But when isn't it?" Lily tried to smile, but she was trembling inside. "You're supposed to be here so I can find the right woman for you." His eyes held hers, intense, unbreakable. "Maybe you already have." Her heart stopped, started again, raced. Before she could respond, Noah's phone rang. He looked at the screen, sighed. "I'm sorry, I have to take this," he said, bringing the phone to his ear and stepping a few paces away. Lily took the moment to breathe, to think, to try to understand what the hell was happening. She didn't do this, didn't get involved, didn't feel, and especially not with clients. But Noah Carter didn't feel like a client. He felt like a destiny she didn't know she'd been waiting for. When he came back, there was something different in his face, a tension in his jaw. "I hate to cut this short, but I have an emergency at the office," he said, and he seemed genuinely disappointed. "Can we continue this another time?" "Of course," Lily replied, forcing professionalism into her voice. Noah hesitated, then stepped closer. Close enough for her to feel his warmth again. "Lily," he said softly, "I meant what I said. Every word." And then, before she could process it, he leaned in and kissed her cheek. It was quick, almost innocent, but his lips lingered just a fraction of a second longer, his breath brushing her skin, and that simple gesture set her on fire inside. When he stepped back, there was a small, almost shy smile on his face. "I'll see you soon." Lily stood in the middle of the market, watching Noah disappear into the crowd, one hand unconsciously touching the place where his lips had been. And for the first time in her career, she had absolutely no idea what to do next. The night was cold, with that sharp wind typical of November in New York that made dry leaves dance across the sidewalks like small golden whirlwinds. Lily stood in front of her bedroom mirror, adjusting for the third time the black dress she had chosen, a simple, elegant design with thin straps and a V neckline that descended down her back, leaving her skin bare to her waist. It wasn't the type of outfit she'd wear to a professional meeting, but she also couldn't pretend anymore that this was just work. Noah's invitation had arrived 3 days earlier, on a cotton paper card with embossed gold letters. "Private viewing at the Morrison Gallery, Contemporary Art Collection, would love your company. N." Below, handwritten in dark blue ink, "Wear something that makes you feel beautiful." She ran her hand through her loose hair that fell in soft waves over her bare shoulders, applied a deep red lipstick to her lips, and slipped on black heels. When the Uber stopped in front of the exposed brick building in Soho, her heart was already beating at an irregular rhythm. The Morrison Gallery was famous for housing emerging and provocative artists. The exposed concrete walls created a dramatic contrast with the colorful and bold works hanging under strategic lighting. The smell was a mixture of fresh paint, varnish, and the soft perfume of white lilies, decorating tall tables scattered throughout the space. Instrumental music played softly, something classical, but with subtle electronic beats that created an atmosphere both sophisticated and intimate. Noah was near a metal sculpture in the center of the gallery, his back to the entrance, hands in the pockets of his black dress pants. He wore a white shirt with sleeves rolled up to his elbows, the first button open, no tie. When he turned and saw her, something changed in his expression. His green eyes traveled over every inch of her, slowly, appreciatively, unhurried, and Lily felt the heat rise up her neck, her cheeks. It wasn't a predatory look, it was reverent, as if he were seeing a work of art. "Lily," he said, and just the way he pronounced her name made something tighten in her chest. "You look—" He paused, searching for the right word, and then smiled. "Devastating." She tried to smile confidently, but her knees were weak. "You said to wear something that makes me feel beautiful." Noah walked toward her, and each step seemed to shrink the space between the real world and something different, something charged with dangerous possibilities. "Mission accomplished," he murmured, stopping just inches from her. For a moment, they just looked at each other. Lily could smell his cologne, that same woody and spicy combination she would now recognize anywhere. She could see the light shadow of stubble darkening his jaw, the almost imperceptible movement of the pulse in his neck. "Shall we?" Noah offered his arm, and she accepted it, feeling the warmth and firmness of the muscles beneath his shirt. They walked through the gallery, and Noah talked about the artists he sponsored, young talents creating provocative works about identity, technology, humanity. His passion was evident in the way he gestured, how his eyes shone when explaining the symbolism behind an abstract painting or the innovative technique of an installation. "Why contemporary art?" Lily asked, genuinely curious. "You could invest in anything." Noah stopped in front of a large canvas, an explosion of vibrant colors that from afar seemed chaotic, but up close revealed intricate, almost mathematical patterns. "Because it asks questions instead of giving answers," he said. "And I think we need more questions in this world." Lily looked at the painting and then at him. "What kind of questions?" He turned, and there was something vulnerable now in his expression. "Who we are beyond what we build. What defines us when we strip away all the layers?" He hesitated. "If someone really saw us, would they still stay?" Her heart ached. There was so much honesty in those words, so much loneliness disguised as philosophy. "I think," Lily began softly, "that the right person wouldn't just stay. They'd want to see more." His eyes locked on hers, and for one endless moment, the rest of the gallery disappeared. They continued walking, stopping in front of a smaller painting. A woman with her back turned looking out a window, soft light illuminating her profile. There was something melancholic and yet hopeful in the image. "She reminds me of you," Noah said quietly. Lily turned to him, surprised. "How so?" He took a step closer, now beside her, their shoulders almost touching. She could feel the warmth emanating from his body. "The way she's looking out, like she's searching for something." He paused. "Or maybe waiting." Lily opened her mouth to respond, but the words didn't come. Instead, she felt his hand gently touch her bare arm, just the fingertips, tracing a slow line from shoulder to elbow. It was a touch so light it could have been imagined, but it sent waves of electricity through every nerve in her body. "Noah," she whispered, but couldn't say anything more. He turned completely toward her, his fingers still resting on her arm. "There's something in you," he said, his voice rough, "that you try to hide. This brightness, this depth." His eyes studied her face. "You build all these walls, all this logic, all this control, but underneath—" He slid his fingers lower, to the curve of her wrist. "There's someone who feels everything." Lily trembled, not from cold, from something much more dangerous. "And what if I don't want to be seen?" she asked, echoing the words Noah had said about art. He held her chin gently, lifting her face so their eyes met. His breathing was irregular, his eyes dark with desire. "Too late," he murmured. "I already see you." His thumb traced the line of her jaw, slowly, as if memorizing every curve. Lily closed her eyes, leaning unconsciously into the touch. When she opened her eyes again, he was closer, so close she could count his eyelashes, see the small lines around his eyes that appeared when he smiled. "Lily," he whispered, and there was a question in that name. She knew what she should do, step back, remember the rules, remember that he was a client, that she was there to find someone else for him, that this, whatever this was impossible, unwise, unprofessional. But instead she leaned forward, just a fraction, and that was all the answer he needed. Noah held her face with both hands, his thumbs caressing her cheeks, and leaned in. But instead of kissing her, he stopped with his lips millimeters from hers, waiting, giving her the chance to pull back. Lily could feel his warm breath mingling with hers. She could see the struggle in his eyes, desire fighting against respect. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. But she couldn't, didn't want to. Instead, she closed the impossible distance between them and pressed her lips to his. It was like touching fire. The kiss started soft, almost hesitant, but in seconds it deepened. His hand slid from her face to her neck, then to her bare back, and the touch of his skin against hers drew a sigh from her lips. She felt his hands tremble slightly as they traced the curve of her spine, as if he were holding himself back from losing control completely. Lily grabbed his shirt, pulling him closer, and felt his heart beating hard against his chest. Or was it hers? She couldn't distinguish any more where she ended and he began. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Noah rested his forehead against hers, eyes still closed. "My God," he whispered. "Lily." She couldn't respond. She was trembling from head to toe, every nerve ending still vibrating. Noah opened his eyes, and there was something new there, something wild and tender at the same time. "I've wanted to do that," he confessed quietly, "since the moment you walked into my office." Lily let out a shaky laugh. "This is insane. We can't. I shouldn't." He held her face again, his eyes serious. "Don't," he said, "don't retreat, don't build the walls again, not now." Tears burned in her eyes, from confusion, from fear, from something dangerously close to hope. "I don't know how to do this," she admitted. "How to be this." Noah smiled, and it was the most beautiful smile she had ever seen. "Then, let's figure it out together." He took her hand, intertwined their fingers, and they continued through the gallery. But now everything was different. Every glance was charged, every touch intentional, every word a promise. And when they finally stepped out into the cold New York night, Noah took off his jacket and placed it over her shoulders. Lily looked at him, at those green eyes that now knew her secrets and knew she had crossed a line from which there was no return. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't want to go back. The dance studio was on the third floor of an old building in the East Village, the kind of place you only find if you know to look for it. The walls were exposed brick, painted a red faded by time, and the wooden floor creaked softly underfoot, holding the memory of thousands of steps taken there over the years. Enormous mirrors covered an entire wall, reflecting the golden light from lamps hanging from the high ceiling. The air carried the characteristic smell of varnished wood, mixed with clean sweat, and the sweet perfume of sandalwood incense burning in a corner. Lily had suggested the salsa class as part of the observation process, a way to see how Noah behaved outside his comfort zone, how he dealt with vulnerability, if he could surrender to the moment. At least that's what she told herself. The truth, which she barely admitted, was that she wanted to see him in a different way. She wanted to be close to him without the excuse of work between them. When she arrived, Noah was already there, leaning against the wooden bar that ran along the wall, wearing dark jeans and a grey t-shirt that showed off his broad shoulders and defined chest. His arms were crossed, and there was an expression somewhere between amused and apprehensive on his face. "You're really going to make me do this?" he asked when he saw her enter. Lily smiled, dropping her bag on the floor. She wore black leggings and a thin-strapped tank top that left her shoulders bare, her hair pulled into a high ponytail. "Scared, Mr. Carter?" He pushed away from the bar, walking toward her with that confident stride that made her stomach knot. "Of making a fool of myself?" "Absolutely." He stopped in front of her, his eyes dropping quickly before returning to her face. "But if it means spending time with you, I'll survive the humiliation." Before she could respond, the door opened and Carmen entered. A woman in her early 50s, dark hair pulled into a bun, bright brown eyes, and a smile that radiated energy. She wore a red flowing dress that swayed with every step. "Buenas noches," Carmen exclaimed, clapping her hands. "You must be Noah and Lily. Welcome, welcome. Are you ready to feel the music in your souls?" Noah looked at Lily with an expression that clearly said, "What have you gotten me into?" but smiled at Carmen. "As ready as I'll ever be." Carmen laughed, a contagious sound. "Don't worry, Querido, everyone starts somewhere. The important thing is to feel, not just to move." She turned to the old sound system in the corner and started an upbeat salsa song with vibrant trumpets and percussion that pulsed like an accelerated heartbeat. "First, we learn the basic step. Watch me." She demonstrated. 1, 2, 3, pause. 4, 5, 6, pause. Her hips moved naturally as if the music controlled her body. "Now you try. Together." Noah looked at Lily, who was already moving to the rhythm, her hips swaying gently. There was something hypnotic about the way she moved, fluid, natural, completely surrendered to the music. "You've done this before," he accused. She smiled without stopping dancing. "Maybe once or twice." Noah tried to copy the steps, but he was clearly off rhythm. His movements were stiff, awkward, and on the third attempt he stepped on his own foot and nearly stumbled. "This is harder than it looks," he grumbled. Lily laughed, a genuine, joyful sound that made his chest tighten. "You're thinking too much. Just feel." Carmen clapped her hands again. "Okay, now together? Noah, you lead. Lily, you follow." She positioned them both, placing Noah's right hand on Lily's waist and his left hand holding her right. "Remember, the connection is everything. You don't just dance with your feet, you dance with your entire body, with your eyes, with your breath." The music started again, this time something slower, more sensual. The beat was steady, hypnotic, and the singer's voice was hoarse, full of desire. Noah looked at Lily and there was nervousness in his eyes. "I'm going to step on your feet," he warned. "I'll survive," she replied softly. They started to move. Noah was clearly counting the steps mentally, and on the first turn he actually stepped on her foot. "Sorry," he said, stopping immediately. Lily held his hand more firmly. "Don't stop. Keep going." They tried again, and again. Gradually, Noah began to relax. His shoulders dropped, his jaw unclenched, and he stopped looking at his feet. Instead, he fixed his eyes on hers, and that's when something changed. The hand on her waist rose slightly, his fingers spreading over her ribs, feeling her breathing. Lily could feel the warmth of his palm through the thin fabric of the tank top, and that simple touch sent waves of heat throughout her body. Carmen watched with a knowing smile. "Muy bien," she murmured. "Now, I want you to do something. Close your eyes. Both of you." Lily hesitated, but obeyed. In the darkness, all her other senses intensified. The music seemed louder, more visceral. Noah's scent, that woody smell mixed with something clean, like soap and warm skin, enveloped her. And his touch. God, his touch. "Forget the steps," Carmen said softly. "Just feel each other. Feel the music. Let your bodies talk." Noah pulled Lily slightly closer, and now their bodies were almost pressed together. She could feel the warmth emanating from him, the movement of his chest rising and falling with each breath. The hand holding hers squeezed lightly, fingers intertwining. They began to move, but these were no longer rehearsed steps. It was something instinctive, primal. Her hips moved against his, creating a delicious and torturous friction. His hand slid from her ribs to her bare back, because the tank top was cut out in the back, and when his fingers touched her skin, Lily let out an involuntary sigh. Noah heard her. She felt his muscles tense, his breathing becoming irregular. "Lily," he whispered, so low she almost didn't hear it over the music. She opened her eyes and found his already open, looking at her with an intensity that made her knees weak. They were so close, she could see the small golden flecks in his green irises, see the movement of the pulse in his neck. The music continued, but they had stopped following any rhythm except their own. Noah tilted his head, bringing his face close to hers until his forehead rested against hers. Intertwined breaths, hearts beating in unison. "You smell like cinnamon and danger," he murmured against her lips. Lily smiled, her eyes closing again with the pure pleasure of proximity. "You're terrible at dancing." "But you're still here," he replied, his voice hoarse, loaded. His hand moved up her back, his fingers tracing each vertebra of her spine until reaching her nape. He held there, firm but gentle, and Lily arched slightly against him, unable to control her body's reaction. "Noah," she whispered, but it wasn't a protest. It was a plea. He understood. His lips brushed hers, not exactly a kiss, but a promise of one. Hot breath mingling, the light touch leaving both wanting more. Her hands rose, sliding up his arms to his shoulders, feeling the muscles contract under her touch. Carmen coughed softly from the other side of the room, and they separated as if waking from a trance. Lily blinked, disoriented, her face hot. Noah ran his hand through his hair, visibly trying to compose himself. "Very good," Carmen said with a smile that said she knew exactly what was happening. "I think that's enough for today. You two—" She hesitated, her eyes sparkling. "You have good chemistry, natural connection." Lily looked at Noah, who looked back with that expression she was beginning to recognize. Desire mixed with tenderness, intensity controlled by respect. "Thank you, Carmen," Noah said, his voice still a bit rough. When Carmen left to attend another class in the next room, Lily and Noah were alone. The music still played softly on the sound system, but now the silence between them was deafening. "I should," Lily began, picking up her bag. "Stay," Noah interrupted. "Please, just one more moment." She stopped, turning to him. He was standing in the center of the room, hands on his hips, his chest still rising and falling rapidly. "This is insane," she said, but there was little conviction in her voice. Noah walked toward her slowly, deliberately. "I know. You're my client. I know. I'm supposed to be finding someone else for you." He stopped in front of her, so close she had to tilt her head back to look into his eyes. "And yet," he said softly, "here we are." Lily closed her eyes, fighting the urge to throw herself into his arms and forget all the reasons why this was a bad idea. "What are we doing, Noah?" He held her face with both hands, gently forcing her to open her eyes. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I know I don't want to stop." And then he kissed her, slowly, deeply, as if he had all the time in the world. And Lily, for the first time in years, allowed herself to simply feel. When they pulled apart, she knew she had crossed another line, and the scariest part was that she didn't regret it one bit. The Strand bookstore was a vertical labyrinth of stories, 18 miles of books according to the proud sign at the entrance, spread across shelves that went from floor to ceiling in narrow aisles that smelled of aged paper, binding glue, and that unmistakable perfume of knowledge accumulated over decades. The light was soft, filtered through dusty windows facing Broadway, creating a golden glow over worn covers and cracked spines. The sound was the constant whisper of pages being turned, footsteps muffled on worn carpet, and occasionally the tinkling of the old bronze cash register. Lily hadn't planned to meet Noah there. It was a Saturday afternoon, and she had gone only to lose herself among the books, her self-care ritual when life got too complex. Lately, life had become exactly that. 5 days had passed since the dance class, 5 days since that kiss that still burned in her memory, and she didn't have the courage to call him, or to answer the 3 messages he had sent, all respectful, patient, just asking if she was okay. Because the truth was she wasn't okay. She was in love, and it terrified every logical fiber of her being. She was in the poetry section, her fingers sliding absent-mindedly over the spines of old volumes of Sylvia Plath and Pablo Neruda, when she heard the voice. "The soul that sees beauty may sometimes walk alone." Lily froze. She would recognize that voice anywhere. Deep, velvety, with that touch of warmth that made her stomach knot. She turned slowly, and there he was. Noah wore faded jeans, brown leather boots, and a dark grey wool sweater that hugged his broad shoulders. His hair was slightly messy, as if he'd run his fingers through it several times. In his arms he held 3 thick books, and in his hands a worn first edition of The Little Prince. Their eyes met, and for a moment neither said anything. They just looked, and in that look was everything: longing, confusion, desire, fear. "Goethe," Lily finally said, referring to the quote. Her voice came out huskier than she intended. Noah smiled, a small, sad smile. Seemed appropriate. He walked toward her slowly, as if approaching something fragile that could break if he moved too quickly. He stopped at a respectful distance, but Lily could still feel his gravity, pulling her in. "You've been avoiding me," he said. It wasn't an accusation, just a fact. Lily lowered her eyes, unable to hold his gaze. "I needed time to think." "And?" he asked softly. "What did you conclude?" She looked up and saw that he was holding his breath, waiting. There was vulnerability in his eyes, an openness that completely disarmed her. "That this is impossible," she whispered. "That I don't know how to make this work. That I should be looking for someone for you, not—" She gestured vaguely between them. "Not this." Noah nodded slowly, his eyes never leaving hers. "You're right. It is impossible." He took a step closer. "And yet, here I am, thinking about you every minute, unable to focus on anything else." Another step. "So maybe the question isn't whether it's possible. Maybe the question is if it's worth trying anyway." Her heart beat hard in her chest. She opened her mouth to respond, but Noah gently raised the book he was holding, The Little Prince. "You see this?" he said, his fingers tracing the worn cover with a tenderness that made her chest tighten. "My mother used to read this to me when I couldn't sleep." His voice got lower, more intimate. "She died when I was 12. Cancer. And for months after I couldn't sleep at all." He looked at the book, then at Lily. "So I would read this alone, over and over, until I memorized every word." Lily felt tears burning in her eyes. There was so much pain in those words, so much loneliness. "Noah," she began, but he shook his head gently. "There's a quote in it," he continued, opening the book to a marked page. "It is only with the heart that one can see rightly. What is essential is invisible to the eye." He closed the book, his eyes fixed on her. "I spent years seeing the world only with logic, with strategies, with plans, and then you showed up and—" He hesitated, and suddenly I could feel again. A tear ran down her face. Noah saw it, and something changed in his expression. He placed the books on a nearby shelf and took the final step that separated them. "Don't cry," he murmured, raising his hand and wiping the tear with his thumb. "Please." Lily let out a shaky laugh. "You can't just say things like that and expect me not to cry." He smiled, but it was a smile full of emotion. "What?" he asked softly. She looked at him, really looked, at the green eyes that now knew her fears, at the strong hands that held her so gently, at the mouth that had already kissed hers and changed everything. "Nothing," she whispered. "Just, I like this version of you." Noah tilted his head, confused. "This version?" Lily nodded, placing her hand on his chest, exactly where she could feel his heart beating, strong, fast, alive. "The one without armor. The one who shows me the pain and vulnerability." She pressed her hand more firmly against his chest. "The real you." His eyes widened slightly, as if those words had struck something deep. He covered her hand with his, pressing it more firmly against his heart. "It's the only one I have," he said, his voice hoarse. "With you, I can't pretend. So I can't be anything but this." They stayed like that for a moment that seemed eternal, her hand over his heart, his covering hers, eyes fixed on each other, the world around them disappearing completely. Lily could feel every beat of his heart, the accelerated rhythm that mirrored hers. "I'm scared," she finally admitted, her voice almost a whisper. "Me too," Noah replied with brutal honesty. "Terrified, actually." "Of what?" He hesitated, then gathered courage. "That this isn't real. That I'm going to wake up and find out it was just a fantasy." His hand squeezed hers. "That you'll realize I'm not enough." Her heart broke and mended at the same time. She turned her hand under his, intertwining their fingers, and pulled him closer. "Noah Carter," she said firmly, forcing him to look into her eyes. "You are more than enough. You're—" She searched for the right words. "You're everything I didn't know I was looking for." His breath failed. He closed his eyes, and when he opened them again they were shining with unspoken emotion. "Lily, he began, but seemed to struggle with the words. "Don't," she interrupted gently, bringing her free hand to his face, tracing the line of his jaw with her fingers. "Don't say anything now, just stay here, with me, in this moment." And he stayed. They stood between the dusty shelves of an old bookstore, hands intertwined, foreheads touching, breaths mingling. Other customers passed by them, but neither noticed. There was only the touch, the closeness, the silent connection that said more than words ever could. After a while, seconds, minutes, Lily couldn't say, Noah gently kissed her forehead. "Come with me," he said. "Where?" "Somewhere quieter. Somewhere we can just talk." Lily nodded, and they left the bookstore together, hands still intertwined. Noah bought The Little Prince to replace a sad memory with a new good one, and they walked through the streets of Manhattan with no specific destination, just enjoying being together. They ended up in a small cafe tucked away on a side street, with worn wooden tables and soft light. They ordered hot chocolate, it was starting to get cold outside, and sat in a corner, so close their knees touched under the table. And there, between sips of chocolate and whispered confessions, Lily realized something that both terrified and freed her. She wasn't just falling in love with Noah Carter, she had already fallen, completely, irreversibly. And when he held her hand on the table, tracing lazy circles with his thumb on the sensitive skin of her wrist, and smiled that smile that was only hers, Lily knew there was no going back. The only question now was whether she had the courage to move forward. The New York sky had that lead-grey tone that had been promising a storm since morning. Heavy clouds accumulated over the skyscrapers like dirty cotton, and the air had that humid, electric smell that precedes rain, ozone mixed with hot asphalt and the distant aroma of the Hudson River. Lily should have checked the weather forecast before suggesting a picnic in Central Park, but in recent days, her ability to think rationally had been seriously compromised. All because of Noah Carter. They met at Sheep Meadow at 2 in the afternoon. Noah arrived carrying a wicker basket that looked straight out of a classic film, wearing light jeans and a light blue linen shirt with rolled-up sleeves. Sunglasses hid his eyes, but the smile that spread across his face when he saw her was devastating. "Ready for our adventure?" he asked, setting down the basket and pulling her into a hug that lasted a few seconds longer than would be appropriate between a matchmaker and her client. But they had stopped pretending a long time ago. Lily wore a light coral summer dress, flat sandals, and had her hair loose falling in waves over her shoulders. When she pulled away from the hug, Noah took off his glasses and looked at her with that intensity that made her knees weak. "You look beautiful," he said simply, as if it were the most obvious fact in the world. They chose a spot under an old oak tree, spread out the red and white checkered blanket, and Noah began pulling things from the basket. Artisanal cheeses wrapped in butcher paper, crackers, green and purple grapes, plump strawberries, a thermos with cold lemonade, and, to Lily's surprise, small chocolate brownies that he admitted to having made personally. "You cook?" she asked, taking a brownie and biting into it. The chocolate melted on her tongue, rich and intense with a hint of coffee and cinnamon. Noah shrugged, but there was a gleam of pride in his eyes. "My mom taught me. She said that a man who knows how to cook never goes hungry, and not just for food." He picked up a strawberry, offered it to her. She was wise like that. Lily accepted the strawberry, her fingers brushing his. The touch, even brief, sent that familiar electric current through her skin. They ate, talked about everything and nothing. Favorite books, trips they wanted to take, childhood memories. Noah talked about growing up in Boston, about the absent father who built an empire but forgot to build a family. Lily talked about growing up in Seattle, only child of parents who divorced when she was 8, and how that shaped her skeptical view of love. "I think," Noah said, lying on his side on the blanket, his head propped on his hand, "that you use logic as a shield. So you don't have to feel." Lily looked at him a bit defensive. "And what's wrong with that?" "Nothing," he replied gently, "except that you're feeling now. And that scares you." She opened her mouth to deny it, but that's when the first drop fell. Thick, heavy, splattering on her bare arm. Then another, and another. Within seconds, the sky opened up. "Oh my God!" Lily shouted, laughing as the rain poured down on them in dense curtains. Noah jumped to his feet, trying to gather things into the basket while water was already soaking everything. Lily grabbed the blanket, but the wind tore it from her hands. In less than a minute, both were completely soaked. "My apartment," Noah shouted over the noise of the rain, "is only 3 blocks from here. Come on." He grabbed the soaked blanket and her hand, and they ran. They ran through the park trails, jumping over puddles, laughing like children. The rain was so heavy that Lily could barely see. Her hair stuck to her face, her dress clinging to her body. But Noah's hand held hers firmly, pulling her, guiding her, and there was something liberating about running like this. Without control, without plans, just alive in the moment. When they finally reached Noah's building in Tribeca, they were both dripping water on the marble lobby floor. The doorman looked at them with barely disguised disapproval, but Noah just waved, pulling Lily toward the elevator. In the silence of the elevator going up, Lily became aware of several things at once. She was trembling, not from cold, but from adrenaline. Her dress was practically transparent. Noah was looking at her with an intensity that made the air seem thin, and she was about to enter his apartment, alone, soaked, and completely, dangerously, in love. The apartment door opened to a spacious loft, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River. The decor was masculine but welcoming: brown leather sofas, dark wood shelves filled with books, contemporary artwork on exposed brick walls. It smelled like coffee and something woody like cedar. "Wait here," Noah said, disappearing down a hallway. Lily stood at the entrance, dripping on the wooden floor, hugging herself. She wasn't exactly cold, but her teeth were chattering. Noah returned with a stack of soft white towels. He had taken off his wet shirt and now wore only a grey t-shirt that showed off his defined chest. His hair was messy, dripping, and there was something incredibly intimate about seeing him like this, stripped down, real, vulnerable. "Here," he said, wrapping her in a large towel, gently rubbing her arms to warm her. "Let me get you some dry clothes." He returned moments later with one of his shirts, a navy blue dress shirt that on her would be a dress. Lily accepted it but hesitated. "Where?" Noah pointed to a door. "Bathroom is there. Take your time. I'll make something hot to drink." In the bathroom, all white marble with soft lighting, Lily took off the soaked dress, wrung it out over the sink, and put on his shirt. The fabric was soft, carried his scent, and when she looked at herself in the mirror, she saw someone different. Softer, more open, more scared. When she came out, Noah was in the open kitchen, his back to her, stirring something on the stove. The smell of chocolate filled the air, rich, comforting, homemade. "Hot chocolate," he said without turning around, "with cinnamon and a touch of chili, family recipe." Lily walked toward him barefoot, the wooden floor cold under her feet. She stopped beside him, watching his skilled hands stirring the melted chocolate with milk. "You really made this yourself?" He looked at her sideways and his gaze dropped briefly, noticing how the shirt slipped off one shoulder, how her bare legs emerged from the fabric. "I did," he replied, his voice a bit rough. "I wanted to make something special. Then, of course, the universe decided to drown us." Lily laughed, and the sound came out more nervous than she intended. Noah turned off the heat, poured the chocolate into 2 large mugs, and they moved to the couch. They sat close, very close, and Lily wrapped her hands around the warm mug, letting the steam with the smell of cinnamon warm her face. "This is delicious," she said after the first sip. And it was, creamy, not too sweet, with a spicy touch of pepper that warmed from the inside out. Noah wasn't drinking. He was just watching her. "What?" she asked, self-conscious. "Your hair," he said softly. "Still wet. You're going to catch a cold." Before she could protest, he set his own mug aside, grabbed one of the towels, and positioned himself behind her on the couch. "I can dry my own hair," Lily began, but her voice failed when she felt his hands. Noah began to dry gently, pressing the towel against the wet strands, absorbing the water carefully. But then his fingers slipped through her hair, gently massaging her scalp, and Lily closed her eyes, a sigh escaping her lips. "Feels good," he murmured, his voice close to her ear. "Yes," she whispered, unable to lie. His fingers continued, tracing, caressing, sliding, and then he moved the hair away from her neck, exposing the sensitive skin, and Lily felt his breath, warm, so close. "Lily," he said, and there was so much in that name. Desire, hesitation, promise. She turned, moving to her knees on the couch to face him. Their eyes met, and it was as if all the tension accumulated over the past weeks exploded between them. "Yes," she whispered. Noah held her face with both hands, his thumbs tracing her cheeks. "I feel more like myself when I'm with you than I have in years," he confessed, his voice raw with emotion. "You make me want to be better, to be more." Tears burned in her eyes. "Don't say that if you don't mean it." His eyes widened, surprised. "Lily, He paused, searching for the right words. "I've never said anything more real in my entire life." And then she couldn't resist any more. Lily closed the distance between them and kissed him, deeply, desperately. And Noah responded with equal intensity, pulling her closer until she was practically in his lap, her legs wrapping around his waist. His hands slid from her waist to her lower back, touching the bare skin under the shirt, and Lily arched against him, wanting more, needing more. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Noah rested his forehead against hers. "Stay," he whispered. "Please, just stay with me. Here tonight." And looking into his green eyes, seeing all the vulnerability and desire mirrored there, Lily knew there was only one possible answer. "Okay," she whispered back. "I'll stay." The soft light of the candles Noah had lit danced on the brick walls of the loft, creating shadows that moved like whispers. The smell of chocolate still lingered in the air, now mixed with the ginger aroma of a scented candle burning on the sideboard near the window. Outside, the rain continued to fall in silver curtains against the glass, creating a constant hypnotic rhythm that isolated the apartment from the rest of the world. It was as if only the two of them existed, suspended in time, in a space where rules didn't apply. Lily was in the kitchen, watching Noah prepare something he insisted would be the perfect dessert for a stormy night. He had changed the wet t-shirt for a dry one, but his hair was still damp, falling slightly over his forehead. His sleeves were rolled up to his elbows, revealing muscular forearms as he melted chocolate in a double boiler, adding butter, a touch of cognac. "What exactly are you making?" she asked, leaning against the marble counter, his shirt that she wore slipping off one shoulder again. Noah looked at her over his shoulder, and his gaze lingered on her bare shoulder before returning to her eyes. "Molten chocolate lava cake," he replied, his voice a bit rough. "It's indulgent, decadent." He paused, turning completely toward her. "Perfect for tonight." There was something in the way he said it, not just about the cake, but about tonight, that made her heart race. Lily approached, stopping beside him, so close their arms touched. She could feel the warmth emanating from him, see the movement of his chest rising and falling with each breath. "Can I help?" she asked. Noah smiled, that slow smile that melted any resistance she was still trying to maintain. "Actually, yes." He picked up a bowl with fresh strawberries. "Can you cut these small pieces?" They worked side by side in comfortable silence, but there was an electric current in the air. In every accidental brush of hands, every stolen glance, every shared breath. Noah placed the batter in small molds and slid them into the oven, setting the timer for 12 minutes. When he turned around, Lily was closer than he expected, so close he had to tilt his head down to look into her eyes. 12 minutes, he said softly. "That's not a lot of time," she whispered. "Depends," he replied, raising his hand and tracing the line of her bare shoulder with his fingertips. "On what you do with it." Lily trembled under his touch. Every nerve ending in her body was hyper-aware, vibrating with anticipation. "Noah," she began, but didn't know how to finish the sentence. He leaned in, his mouth close to her ear. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, his breath hot against her sensitive skin. "If this is wrong, if you don't want this." Lily turned her head, her lips now millimeters from his. "Don't stop," she whispered back, and those two words came out as a plea, as a promise, as surrender. Noah didn't need to hear it twice. He held the nape of her neck, his fingers intertwining in her still damp hair, and pulled her into a kiss that was different from all the others. It wasn't gentle or hesitant. It was hunger. It was need. It was months of tension and denial exploding all at once. Lily responded with equal intensity, her hands moving up his arms to his shoulders, then to his neck, pulling him closer. Their bodies pressed together, his heat penetrating the thin layers of clothing, burning her skin. Noah gently pushed her against the counter, his body pressing hers, and she felt the solidity of him, the contained strength. His hands slid from her nape to her back, then to her waist, his fingers slipping under the fabric of the shirt, touching bare skin. "God, you're so soft," he murmured against her lips, his fingers tracing the curve of her waist, moving up her ribs. Lily arched against him, a low sound escaping her throat. Her hands descended, finding the buttons of his shirt, and she began to undo them with trembling fingers. "Wait," Noah said softly, covering her hands with his. "Are you sure? Because if we start this—" He hesitated, his green eyes intense on hers. "I don't know if I'll be able to stop." Lily looked at him, really looked, at the face that had become so familiar, so precious, at the eyes that saw her in a way no one else did, at the hands that touched her with reverence, mixed with desire. "I'm sure," she said firmly. "I've never been more sure of anything." Something changed in his expression. The restraint broke. He kissed her again, this time without reservations, and Lily finished unbuttoning his shirt, pushing it over his broad shoulders. Her hands explored his bare chest, defined muscles, warm skin, his heart beating hard under her palm. Noah grabbed the hem of the shirt she was wearing, his, and paused, eyes questioning. Lily nodded, raising her arms, and he removed it slowly, almost reverently. For a moment, he just looked at her, and there was so much in his eyes that Lily felt tears burning. "You're beautiful," he said, his voice hoarse. "So incredibly beautiful." Then he picked her up, one fluid, strong movement, and she wrapped her legs around his waist. Noah carried her to the couch, laying her gently on the soft leather cushions. He hovered over her, propped on his elbows, and just looked. "What?" she whispered, self-conscious. "I've wanted this," he confessed quietly, "since the day you walked into my office, since the moment you smiled and said, 'Call me Lily.' And I knew—" He paused, searching for words. "I knew you would change everything." Her heart swelled in her chest. She pulled his face down, kissing him deeply, trying to put into the kiss everything she couldn't say in words. His hands explored, tracing the curve of her neck, descending over her shoulders, her ribs, her waist. Each touch was deliberate, worshipful, as if he were memorizing every inch of her. When his lips left her mouth and descended down her neck, nibbling lightly, Lily arched, her fingers burying themselves in his hair. "Noah," she whispered, his name coming out like a prayer. He kissed her shoulder, then her collarbone, his warm lips against her sensitive skin. His hands slid down, undoing the last button of the shirt she still wore, opening it completely. "God, you're perfect," he murmured against her skin. Lily pulled him back up, kissing him while her hands explored his back, feeling the muscles contract under her touch. She slid her hands to his front, undoing his belt, the button of his jeans. Noah captured her hands, intertwining their fingers. "Lily," he said, his voice tense with restraint, "are you absolutely sure?" She looked into his eyes, seeing the vulnerability mixed with desire. "I'm sure," she replied. "I want this. I want you." And then there were no more words. Just touches, kisses, sighs, skin against skin, heat against heat, hearts beating in unison. Noah loved her with a passion that was both raw and tender, intensity controlled by care, desire tempered with reverence. Each touch said what words couldn't. Each kiss was a promise, each sigh a confession. When they finally came together, Lily closed her eyes, feeling complete in a way she had never experienced. Noah held her face, forcing her to open her eyes to look at him. "Look at me," he whispered. "I want to see you, to see us." And she looked, losing herself in his green eyes as they moved together, finding a rhythm that was uniquely theirs. The outside world ceased to exist. There was no more rain, no more doubts, no more fear. Just them, in that perfect and impossible moment. When pleasure finally took them beyond the edge, it was together. Mingled sighs, intertwined bodies, souls touching in ways neither knew were possible. Afterward, Lily rested on Noah's chest, listening to the steady beating of his heart returning to normal. He stroked her hair gently, his fingers tracing lazy patterns. "Tell me," Noah murmured in the quietness, "that this isn't just a moment." Lily raised her head, looking at him. There was vulnerability in those eyes she now knew so well. "This is everything," she replied softly, and meant every word. Noah pulled her closer, kissing her forehead, and they stayed like that, intertwined, safe, complete, while the rain continued to fall outside and the candles burned low. And when the oven timer finally beeped, long after the 12 minutes, they laughed together, and Noah kissed her once more before getting up to rescue the cakes that were now definitely burned. But neither of them cared, because they had discovered something much sweeter. Morning arrived soft and golden. The rain had passed during the night, leaving New York washed clean and gleaming under the November sun. Lily woke up wrapped in Noah's Egyptian cotton sheets, her body still warm from his presence, though the bed was empty. The smell of freshly brewed coffee floated in the air, mixed with the aroma of something baking, probably the croissants she had seen in his freezer the night before. For a moment she just lay there looking at the high ceiling of his bedroom, trying to process what had happened. Not the sex, though that had been transformative, but what it meant. What it changed. Everything. It changed everything. She got up, put on his shirt that was lying on the floor, now completely wrinkled, and walked barefoot to the kitchen. Noah had his back turned, wearing only grey sweatpants hanging low on his hips, his bare torso revealing the muscular back she had explored with her hands the night before. He hummed softly while scrambling eggs in a pan. "Good morning," she said softly. He turned, and the smile that lit up his face when he saw her was devastating. Pure, happy, without reservations. "Good morning, beautiful," he replied, abandoning the pan and coming to her, pulling her into a slow kiss that tasted of coffee and promises. "Did you sleep well?" "Better than I have in years," she admitted. And it was true. They had breakfast on the balcony, warm croissants, scrambled eggs with fresh herbs, fruit, strong coffee. They talked about trivial things, but beneath each word was the pulsing awareness of what had changed between them during the night. It was when Lily returned home, still floating in that happy fog, that reality hit her like a bucket of cold water. Her laptop was open on the desk in her home office, and the screen blinked with a notification from Soulmatch. The software had finished Noah's complete analysis. After weeks processing data, interviews, psychological questionnaires, behavioral patterns, the algorithm had finally identified the perfect match. With trembling hands, Lily clicked on the notification. And there she was, Rachel Monroe, 34 years old, pediatrician, volunteer at free clinics. Compatibility, 98.7%. The photo showed a stunning woman, blonde hair falling in soft waves, bright, kind blue eyes, a smile that radiated genuine warmth. Lily read the profile, each word feeling like glass in her stomach. Rachel is compassionate, intelligent, emotionally stable. Loves contemporary art, classical music, outdoor hiking, dreams of opening a foundation for underprivileged children, seeking a partner who values family, long-term commitment, and making a difference in the world. She was perfect. She was exactly what Noah had asked for. She was everything Lily had promised to find. And it wasn't her. Lily looked at the mirror on the wall, seeing her own reflection, messy hair still wearing Noah's wrinkled shirt, haunted eyes. She was the opposite of stable. She was cynical where Rachel was hopeful. She was closed off where Rachel was open. The phone rang. Noah. She looked at the screen, her heart breaking. Part of her wanted to ignore it, pretend this moment could last forever. But the professional part, the part that had built her entire reputation on honesty and results, knew what she had to do. She answered. "Hey." His voice was warm, intimate. "I miss you already. When can I see you again?" Lily closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. "Noah, I need to see you. Now. Can you come here?" There was a pause. He heard something in her voice. "Is everything okay? Just, please, come." 40 minutes later, Noah was at her door. He had come so quickly he was still wearing the same sweatpants, just adding a t-shirt and sneakers. His eyes scanned her, searching for signs of what was wrong. "Lily, what's going on?" She let him in, closed the door, and went straight to the laptop. No beating around the bush. No preparation. Because if she thought too much, she'd lose her courage. "The software found it," she said, her voice coming out colder than she intended. "Protection. Your perfect match." She turned the laptop toward him. Noah looked at the screen, at Rachel's photo, and something indefinable passed over his face. "Lily, Rachel Monroe," she continued, professional now, reciting facts as if she were in a business presentation. "Pediatrician, 98.7% compatibility. She's kind, stable, successful." Her voice trembled slightly. "She's exactly what you asked for." Noah didn't take his eyes off her, didn't look at the screen again. "And you really think," he said quietly, "that I care about this now?" "You should," Lily replied, forcing firmness into her voice. "This is what you hired me to do. This is what you paid for." He took a step toward her, but Lily stepped back, maintaining distance. If he touched her, she would crumble. "Lily, look at me." She forced herself to meet his eyes, and what she saw there almost destroyed her. Pain, confusion, and something that looked dangerously like love. "She's not you," he said simply. "But she's perfect for you," Lily insisted, hating every word that came out of her mouth. "On paper, in data, in every metric that matters." "Fuck the data," Noah exploded. And she had never heard him raise his voice before. "Fuck the metrics. Fuck all of this." He pointed at the laptop. "That's not real. This," he gestured between them, "is real." Tears burned in her eyes, but she kept them in. "You need to at least meet her," she said. "Give her a chance, because if you don't do this, you'll always wonder. And I'll always wonder if—" Her voice broke. "If you chose me just because it was convenient. Because I was there." The pain that crossed his face was physical. "You really believe that?" he asked, his voice low and hurt. "After last night? After everything? You really think this is just convenience?" Lily hugged herself, trying to hold together the pieces that threatened to fall apart. "I don't know what to believe," she admitted, her voice breaking. "I just know you deserve to be sure. Really sure. And the only way to have that is—" she swallowed hard, "is to meet her." Noah was silent for a long moment. Then he ran his hand through his hair, the gesture revealing frustration and resignation. "Fine," he said finally. "I'll meet her." He walked to Lily, standing so close she could feel his warmth. "But this won't change anything. She's not you, Lily. Nobody is." He leaned in, kissed her forehead, a long, tender kiss that felt like goodbye, and left. When the door closed, Lily finally let the tears fall, because she had just pushed the man she loved into the arms of another woman. And the scariest part was that she wasn't sure if she had done it for him or out of fear that he would discover she wasn't enough. 3 days had passed, 72 hours that felt like an eternity. Lily had heard nothing from Noah, no messages, no calls, just deafening silence that echoed in every empty room of her apartment. She knew he had gone to the meeting with Rachel. She had personally arranged it, at an elegant restaurant on the Upper East Side at 8 o'clock on Tuesday night. She knew because it was her job to know, because she was the one who should be following up on the process, collecting feedback, adjusting variables. But how could she do that when every thought of Noah with another woman, smiling at her, talking to her, perhaps touching her hand, made her chest ache in a way that no logic could cure? Now it was Friday night. Lily was curled up on the couch, wearing old sweatpants and an oversized t-shirt, her hair pulled into a messy bun. A half-eaten bowl of melted chocolate ice cream sat on the coffee table, next to a book she'd been pretending to read for 2 hours. Outside, the sky was dark, heavy with clouds that promised a storm. Appropriate, she thought bitterly. Even the weather is in mourning. Her phone had been silent for 3 days, and then at 9:23 at night, it buzzed with a message. She picked it up with trembling hands, her heart racing. But it wasn't from Noah. It was from Carmen, the salsa instructor. "Querida, I saw a man in love today in class. He was looking for you, said you were hiding. Lily, whatever is happening, don't let fear steal your heart. See." Lily stared at the message, confusion mixed with hope. Noah had gone to the dance class, looking for her. Before she could process it, loud knocks sounded at the door. Urgent, insistent. She stood up, her heart beating irregularly, and walked to the entrance. When she opened the door, Noah was there. Wet, completely soaked. The rain had started without her noticing, and he was standing on her building's porch, dripping water, his hair stuck to his forehead, his grey t-shirt clinging to his body. He was breathing hard, as if he'd run for miles. His green eyes met hers, and there was so much emotion there that Lily forgot to breathe. "Noah," she began, but he raised his hand. "Don't," he said, his voice hoarse. "Don't say anything yet. Just let me talk, please." Lily nodded, unable to find words anyway. Noah ran his hand through his wet hair, drops running down his face. The rain fell heavily behind him, a silver curtain illuminated by the streetlights. He began. "I went to the meeting with Rachel. I sat across from her in an expensive restaurant, with candles and wine and the perfect setting for romance." He took a step closer, climbing one step. "And you know what happened?" Lily shook her head, mute. "Nothing," he said, and there was something almost desperate in his voice. "Absolutely nothing. Rachel is—" He searched for words. "She's everything you said. Kind, beautiful, interesting. Everything on paper is perfect." Another step. Now he was almost at the door, so close she could see the raindrops on his eyelashes. "But I spent the entire dinner wishing it was you across from me." Her heart stopped. Started again. Beat so hard, she was sure he could hear it. "I tried," Noah continued, his voice breaking. "I really tried to feel something, to see if maybe you were right. Maybe the data knows better." He laughed, but it was a sound without humor. "But every time she smiled, I thought of your smile. Every time she spoke, I wished it was your voice." He was shaking now, from the rain, from emotion Lily couldn't tell. "Because the truth is, Lily, I love you." The tears she had held back for 3 days finally overflowed, streaming hot down her cheeks. "Noah." But he wasn't finished. He crossed the porch, now completely in front of her, wet and trembling and absolutely beautiful. "I love you," he repeated, firmer now. "I love the way you furrow your brow when you're thinking. I love that you use logic as armor, but underneath, you're the most feeling person I've ever known. I love that you challenged me, that you see me, really me, and still stayed." He took her hands, cold and wet, but holding them as if they were the only solid thing in the world. "I don't care about compatibility percentages. I don't care what the software says. I care about you, only you." Lily sobbed, the words she had been terrified to hear, now destroying and rebuilding her at the same time. "But what if—" she began, her voice breaking. "What if this doesn't work? What if we're too different? What if—" Noah released one of her hands to hold her face, forcing her to look into his eyes. "Then we fail," he said simply. "We fail together. We try and we fail, and we get up and we try again." His thumbs wiped the tears from her cheeks. "Because even failing with you is better than succeeding with anyone else." More tears. Lily couldn't stop them. "I'm scared," she whispered. "Me too," he admitted. "I'm terrified. Because you have the power to destroy me completely." He pressed his forehead to hers. "But I'd rather be destroyed by loving you than safe never having tried." Lily closed her eyes, letting his words sink in. All the years of cynicism, of protection, of logic, of fear, everything melting under the raw heat of his honesty. "I love you too," she finally said, the words coming out like a confession, like surrender, like liberation. "God, Noah, I love you so much it scares me." The smile that spread across his face was like the sun rising. He pulled her into his arms, wet and all, and kissed her, deeply, completely, as if they were sealing a promise that went beyond words. The rain kept falling, but neither of them cared. Noah held her face with both hands, deepening the kiss, and Lily clung to him as if he were the only solid point in a world that had turned upside down. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Noah rested his forehead against hers again. "Say it's not too late," he whispered. "Say we still have a chance." Lily opened her eyes, looking into those green eyes she now knew better than her own. "It was always you," she said softly. "From the moment you walked into my office. I was too scared to admit it." Noah laughed, a pure, joyful, free sound, and spun her around, lifting her off the ground. Lily screamed, laughing too, clinging to his shoulders. "We're insane," she said, when he put her back on the ground. "Completely," he agreed, kissing the tip of her nose. "But I wouldn't have it any other way." They stood there for a few more minutes, on the porch in the rain, just holding each other, breathing together, letting the reality of what had happened finally settle. "Come inside," Lily finally said, pulling him into the apartment. "You're soaking wet. You're going to catch pneumonia." Noah followed her, but when she turned to get a towel, he pulled her back into his arms. "Lily," he said seriously, holding her face, "I need you to know something." "What?" "This isn't just—" He searched for the right words. "This isn't just attraction or chemistry or temporary. This is—" He took a deep breath. "This is it for me. You're it." Her heart swelled so much it hurt. "Noah Carter," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You are everything I never knew I needed." They kissed again, slowly this time, savoring. And when they finally pulled apart, Noah smiled that smile that was only hers. "So," he said, his eyes sparkling, "does this mean you're going to stop trying to find other women for me?" Lily lightly tapped his chest, laughing. "Definitely. Consider yourself off the market." "Good," he replied, pulling her closer. "Because I've been off the market since the day I met you. I just needed you to catch up." And there, soaked and laughing and completely in love, they knew that sometimes the most illogical thing in the world is also the most right. Love didn't need to make sense. It just needed to be real. 6 months had passed since that rainy night that changed everything. 6 months of discoveries, of learning how to love without fear, of building something real in a world that so often seemed made of illusions. New York was radiant that Saturday in May. Spring had exploded through the city in shades of light green and pink flowers, decorating the cherry blossom branches in Central Park. The air carried the smell of freshly cut grass mixed with the sweet perfume of magnolias, and the sky was that impossible blue that only appears after winter finally releases its grip on the city. Lily walked through the park, wearing a light lavender dress that danced gently in the breeze, her hair loose falling in natural waves over her shoulders. She held a picnic basket, because some traditions, even those that started in disaster, deserved to be honored. Beside her, Noah wore jeans and a white linen shirt with rolled-up sleeves, sunglasses hiding his eyes, but the smile on his face revealing everything. "You're being very mysterious," Lily commented, as he guided her down a path she didn't recognize. "Where exactly are we going?" Noah squeezed her hand, intertwined with his. "Patience," he replied, his eyes sparkling with something she had learned to recognize as mischief. "We're almost there." They emerged in a clearing Lily knew well, the same place where they had tried to have their disastrous picnic months ago, before the rain had transformed everything. But now it was different. Someone had scattered red and white rose petals on the grass, creating a path that led to a blanket spread under the shade of an old oak tree. Candles in glass containers, not yet lit because of the bright day, surrounded the space, and a violinist stood discreetly a few meters away. Lily stopped, her free hand going to her mouth. "Noah." "What?" He took her basket, set it aside, and held both her hands. Her heart began to beat too fast, her legs growing weak as the reality of what was about to happen began to form. "Lily Collins," he began, and there was emotion in his voice, controlled but evident. "When you walked into my office 6 months ago, I thought I knew what I was looking for. I had a list, criteria, specifications." He smiled, somewhat sheepishly. "I was so sure that love was just data, chemistry that could be measured and predicted." Lily felt tears beginning to form, but held back, wanting to hear every word. "And then," Noah continued, "you looked at me with those eyes that see through everything, and you smiled, and something inside me shifted." He released one of her hands to touch his chest, over his heart. "Every moment after that, every conversation, every touch, every time you challenged me or made me laugh or drove me absolutely insane," he laughed softly, "I fell more, deeper, completely." A tear escaped, running down her cheek. Noah wiped it away with his thumb without stopping talking. "You promised to find me the perfect woman," he said, echoing the words he had said so many times. "And you did." He paused, his green eyes intense on hers. "But she wasn't in your software. She wasn't in data or algorithms." His voice lowered, intimate. "She was right in front of me the whole time." And then, with a fluid movement, Noah knelt on the soft grass sprinkled with petals. The world stopped. Lily couldn't breathe, couldn't think, only feel. A tsunami wave of love and joy and shock and absolute certainty. From his pants pocket, Noah pulled out a small navy blue velvet box. He opened it, revealing a ring that sparkled in the sunlight. A solitaire diamond in a simple, elegant setting, exactly the type she would have chosen if anyone had asked. "Lily," he said, his voice choked now, "I don't need software to tell me you're my perfect match. I don't need percentages or compatibility scores." He held her left hand. "I just need you, every day, for the rest of my life." The tears fell freely now, and Lily didn't try to stop them. "Will you marry me?" Noah asked, and there was pure vulnerability in those green eyes. "Will you make me the luckiest man who ever existed and say yes?" For a moment, Lily couldn't speak. The emotion was too great, blocking the words. Then she fell to her knees in front of him, holding his face with both hands. "Yes," she said, her voice breaking with joy. "1,000,000 times yes. 1,000,000,000 times yes." She laughed through the tears. "Yes to every morning waking up beside you. Yes to every argument because I know we'll work through it. Yes to—" Noah interrupted her with a kiss, deep, tender, full of promise. When they pulled apart, both laughing and crying at the same time, he slid the ring onto her finger. It fit perfectly. Of course it fits, Lily thought, because he knows me, really knows me. The violinist began to play, something soft and romantic that floated in the spring air. Noah stood up, pulling Lily with him, and spun her around, both laughing like children. "I can't believe," Lily said when she stopped spinning, looking at the ring sparkling on her hand. "You did all this." Noah pulled her into his arms, resting his chin on top of her head. "You deserve everything," he murmured, "and I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving it." They stayed like that for a long moment, just holding each other, listening to the music, absorbing the enormity of what had just happened. Then Lily pulled away slightly, looking up at him with a mischievous smile. "So," she said, "technically my software was right." Noah frowned, confused. "How so?" She held his hand, intertwining their fingers with the ring, now sparkling between them. "It promised to find your perfect match." She smiled. "And it did, just took an unconventional approach." Noah laughed, that rich, full sound she loved so much. "Are you really trying to claim credit for this?" "Absolutely," she replied, her eyes sparkling. "I'm nothing if not thorough in my work." He pulled her closer, his voice dropping to that intimate tone that always made her stomach knot. "Well then," he murmured against her lips, "let me thank you properly for your excellent service." And he kissed her long and deep, while the violinist played and the rose petals danced in the breeze, and the world kept spinning around them. Later, sitting on the blanket with the picnic food spread between them, this time without rain to ruin it, Noah picked up his phone and took a photo of them. Lily was nestled against his chest, her left hand extended to show the ring, both smiling as if they had discovered the secret of the universe. "For posterity," he said, kissing her temple. Lily looked at the photo, then at the man holding her, then at the ring that symbolized everything they had built against all odds. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "when I started this business, I was so convinced that love was just science, that it could be quantified and predicted." "And now?" Noah asked. She turned in his arms to look directly into the green eyes she knew so well. "Now I know," she said softly, "that love is both. It's chemistry and choice. It's data and destiny." She touched his face. "It's finding someone who makes all the logic in the world seem irrelevant, and still choosing them, every single day." Noah held her hand against his face, turning his head to kiss her palm. "I choose you," he said simply, "today, tomorrow, always." "And I choose you," Lily replied. And there, under the impossible blue sky of a spring afternoon in New York, surrounded by rose petals and unspoken promises, they knew that sometimes the most accurate software in the world is simply the heart. Because in the end, Lily had done exactly what she promised. She had found Noah Carter his perfect match. It just so happened that the answer was inside her all along. In the end, Lily discovered that spending her life studying love hadn't prepared her to truly feel it. All her theories, algorithms, and compatibility percentages crumbled before a simple truth. The heart doesn't follow logic. It follows what is real. Noah wasn't perfect on paper, but he was perfect for her. And maybe that's the magic of true love. It doesn't need to make sense to everyone. It just needs to make sense to two people. Sometimes the right person isn't the one who checks all the boxes on the list. It's the one who makes you throw the list away. And you? Have you ever lived a love that defied all logic? A love that didn't make sense but was exactly right? If this story touched your heart, subscribe to the channel, leave your like, and become a member to get early access to upcoming stories. And if you felt it was really worth listening to, also click the Super Thanks button. Your gesture makes all the difference and helps us continue bringing stories that move you.